Hey guys, this is Pram bringing you the round 8 of the Philadelphia Regionals. On our left we have Christian Ortiz, and on our right we have Gino Lombardi. So we see Christian flipping over a Trubbish and goes for a heavy ball. So we know right away he's playing Garbodor, and Gino has a Terrakion EX. This is pretty scary deck. I don't really know what Gino's playing. So we'll just have to see where this leads. So we see an Ultra Ball. Christian did get a Terrakion, and he discards a Catcher and a Bianca. Probably has a Juniper in his hand. So let's just see what he gets, and this will kind of tell us what Christian is playing. So both these players right now are 6-1, and you know their matchup, the tournament life isn't totally in danger. You know, you can go, you have to go 7-2 at this event to make top cut. So, you know, the winner of this round will definitely go on to the top cut, and the loser will have one more chance to try to stay in the tournament. So didn't really get to see what card he got with the Ultra Roll. Oh, he got another Terrakion. Okay, so let's just see how this works out. We see a DCE on the Trubbish and N. Okay, so he goes with the N. This matchup's going to be kind of interesting. I don't think since there's a Terrakion EX, I'm thinking like Terrakions and Stunfisk and Mewtwo. And that's probably what Gino's playing. So the Garbodor probably won't come into play this game. You know, there's not really a lot of powers, if any, in Gino's deck. You know, except for maybe Roserade, which is a pretty good card that's been seeing a lot of play recently. So I think I see a green card. Yep, there's a Roselia. So that's what Gino's playing: Roserade, Terrakions, and Stunfisk. Probably it's all purple, so it's Mewtwo. And Christian going with, it looks like DCE, so that indicates like a kind of a similar deck, just with Garbodor. Pretty good. Trubbish gets to put a card back on top of your deck from the discard, so he puts Catcher. So he's gonna draw that Catcher. It's a pretty good card. It's nice that he gets to also put a supporter on top, I think. I don't know. It might only target trainers. So we see a Garbodor in Christian's hand, and we see Gino just drop the field with a bunch of attackers and goes for the N. You know, Gino's deck really doesn't get ramped up until it gets to its third turn. It's a little vulnerable there, but the Roselia will definitely help it out, set up, and kind of just help him out all throughout the game. You know, he can be able to go for like Roselia Catcher, knock something out, Roselia DCE for the Mewtwo, or even just Roselia for supporter, and then draw like Juniper and then draw 7. So there's a lot of options with Roselia or Roserade too. There's a lot of options with those guys, and yeah, they're really, really good. So honestly, I think just in pure matchup, I think Gino's probably a favorite. We'll see how that works out completely. So let's just see what Christian does. He does a Giant Cape, has Garbodor. I think I saw a switch. Maybe it was a Super Rod. I did see an N though, and an Ultra Ball. So, you know, this is pretty much a mirror matchup. Just, you know, Gino's playing more is just playing cards that, you know, end up in his favor. So it's going to be interesting. I have to think that Gino does not run much healing, if any. If he's running that Roselia line, you know, you really have to commit like 5 spots to it. So 5-6 spots, maybe even more, to like really effectively run it, which is gonna put on hamper on like Gino's long game survivability with like keeping guys alive. you know, he can still cycle through a bunch of people with Pump Up Smash, get them powered up, and just say, hey, the prize count's not really matter much. I'm just gonna run you over with this deck. So we'll see how that goes. Looks so we do not see a DCE from Christian. That's gonna really set him back a lot. Gino's gonna get in that first 50 on the Mewtwo, and then it's gonna put it in a very weird spot from then on. It's always gonna be able to be captured up by an opposing Mewtwo. You know, if like a 3 energy Mewtwo will just knock it out. Even if Christian's energy only has 0 energy on it, it's going to be in a very vulnerable spot. So we'll see if he can somehow avoid that from happening. He is setting up for a Retaliate and maybe a Land Crush. So definitely, I think Terrakion's probably the card that's the most crippling for or Terrakion EX is the card that's most crippling for Christian right here. It's definitely, it might even go all the way in this matchup. It's actually just really, really strong here. It's going to get all of Gino's guys powered up. Even if you take it down, that one Pump Up Smash is enough to really get him moving. And he's just going to have to figure out some way to get around that Terrakion EX. So we do see a DCE, so we will see 80 damage coming in here. Which is pretty good because, you know, even if Gino does Pump Up Smash, he won't be able to knock out Mewtwo with that attack. And that'll put in order to do that attack, he has to put another energy on the Terrakion, which will make it do 100 damage, which will be a knockout. Now, he can avoid this situation if he has like a switch DCE onto Mewtwo and go for the Mewtwo on Mewtwo knockout. And that wouldn't actually be too bad. Or he can go for the Pump Up Smash if he has a lot of energy, put some energies on the Terrakion, or maybe power up another Terrakion EX if he can, and get kind of board position that way. I almost like just playing switch here and then going for DCE Mewtwo here. You know, his opponent's board isn't much. 90 damage from Retaliate isn't going to knock many things out on his board. Worst case, he loses a Roselia. He might even draw a Roserade here. Oh, he kind of figures, alright, that second Terrakion EX I'm not going to need. I'm just going to go all the way with these guys. And that's pretty reasonable of him. So, if he has an Ultra Ball or something here, he has a catcher. Plus power. So he's going to be able to do some neat things here. Maybe he want to catcher a Terrakion, buy some time. So he catches a Terrakion. I do believe I saw a Tool Scrapper earlier in Gino's deck, so he will have a way to deal with this these tools from Christian. You know, get rid of the EXP share. Makes you able to put knock things out pretty easily without kind of worry free, and then getting rid of the Garbodor lets you use Roserade's power. So he's just going to get 50 on there, set it up for any knockouts via Retaliate, Land Crush, or maybe even a Pump Up Smash. Really make it vulnerable to a lot of different options Gino has. And that's really like what Christian's board is right now. It's very vulnerable. Gino is just kind of setting himself up to take a bunch of prizes later on with this Terrakion. It's really gotten in there for a lot of good damage. So, you know, Christian's gonna be kind of scratching his head on what to do here. You know, what can you do, really? You can attach another energy to the Mewtwo, kind of go all out. You have to have even have to have a switch to even pull off any of these moves too. So, but he does have the switch. So he's gonna go for Ultra Ball here. And we'll see how this works out for him. I'm not really sure what he gets here. He discards Mewtwo and Super Rod, which is kind of questionable. I was considering maybe turning this into a giant Mewtwo war would be an option, and kind of just hoping for the best and eventually get a Retaliate off or something along those lines. But he opts to get another Trubbish, which is curious. Does he think that maybe this matchup will come down to Garbodor but a lot of those EXs and Terrakions on Gino's side of the field doesn't actually have powers. So this is kind of a curious move. And he just passes. So Gino's play, if he has a switch here, then he'll be in really great shape. So he random receivers, gets Juniper off the top. Yeah, so there was a new ruling placed in on random receiver. Actually, anytime you use it, you must shuffle your deck. So, like, it used to be where if the top card was a supporter, since you didn't flip any other cards to shuffle in, you just wouldn't shuffle. However, that's different now, and you now are required to shuffle your deck. And honestly, that's the way it is now. Is the more it's the way you would kind of think it would be, anyways. Like, it was actually weird not to shuffle your deck after revealing anything to both players and stuff like that, unless it specifically said don't shuffle. So it wasn't intuitive for Pokemon Logic to have it as it was, but now it is, and so now we get this. We see a Tool Scrapper for Roserade. Now he can just get that switch he needs, or maybe just really anything. He's gonna go Pump Up Smash here, get a bunch of energy on the Terrakion, and then just kind of go buck wild with that Pump Up Smash. I really like the Terrakion too. If you had watched any of my streams earlier, you saw I had like a quad Terrakion deck. Deck's actually a lot of fun, and I like the attack a lot, and I'm glad to see Gino kind of putting a use of it here. It's really strong. So we did see him get a switch, I believe, and yep, there it is for the Mewtwo. So he's going for the Mewtwo knockout. Alright, so this is pretty good. He attached that energy to the Terrakion EX. I thought that was kind of a play. So he kind of realizes that too, and he puts it on the other Terrakion, knowing that a Mewtwo could still come in and make him pretty sad. But that's really all that's going to happen from Christian's board. Anyways, it's kind of like he also didn't play a supporter last turn, so he's also in all really bad shape, hand and board wise. This game has really been in Gino's favor quite a lot. He's doing a defensive catcher, just trying to like buy time. Hopefully Gino won't be able to draw a switch and then knock him out completely. And I'm not sure why he sent up the 50 damage Terrakion. Maybe he forgot that EXP share's no longer there, because if that Terrakion gets knocked out, Gino or Christian just kind of loses all his energy on the board, and that'll be game over. But it looks like both players do not have a supporter, and yeah, we're just kind of sitting here waiting for someone to draw out of their slump. But Gino, since he has board position, he's just going to take this one down. We do see a Trubbish getting in here. He's probably going to stack the deck with a supporter. Yep, so he puts N on top. He kind of knows that, okay, my only real chance here is I'm going to end you out of the game and hope for the best. So I think Gino did have a Juniper in hand, but he opts not to play it. He probably just has too many catchers in his hand, and he's like, I just can't afford to do this right now. Which is smart. And then we see another catcher. So he's going to get a Land Crush off this turn. Just knock out that Terrakion, and he'll be in great shape. It is a DC energy, though, so he is a little vulnerable to Mewtwo. However, Christian did discard his Super Rod and Mewtwo earlier, so he may no longer have access to those Mewtwo's that he needs right away in this situation. So we do see an N come down. Yeah, Gino kind of shows him his hand. He's like, yep, not Junipering this hand away. Thank you for the shuffle. So Gino's going to draw 3, Christian 6, and hopefully we'll see if he can draw anything to get out of this game. This game has been pretty lopsided from the start, ever since they flipped their cards over and they realized what each other was playing. Gino's deck just kind of just has the favorable matchup here. They're both trying to do the same thing, but Gino's cards are just much more direct about it, and Christian's was like, hey, Garbodor is kind of cool, right? Right? So, alright, we're just probably going to see maybe another attached to Terrakion, and then just go for another search the discard attack. And I wonder what he's going to put on top. Maybe a catcher. Gino's board's gone to the point where his board is just like, yeah, I have everything I need. It doesn't really matter what you send up. I'll just knock you out, and then that's pretty depressing. And that, like, I'm trying to find what Christian can do in this situation. Maybe he just keeps bringing back N and just goes, okay, eventually one of these N's might possibly knock you out of this game and allow me to come back. He already does have that damage set up on that Terrakion EX. If he can somehow navigate a knockout on Mewtwo and then knock out at the Terrakion, and then there is a 4 energy normal Terrakion on Gino's side of the board, maybe he can put this back into his favor. 4 energies, with DCE plus power on a Mewtwo, that would be a knockout. So I don't even know if Christian even runs plus power. Maybe not. If he does, he'll be in great shape. I'm surprised I haven't seen an Eviolite from Gino. I'm looking at him flip through his deck right now, and I don't believe he runs any. So that's quite interesting that he opted not to run any, which might indicate that he went for a super consistent build. He's just trying to attack as fast as possible and use Roserade to set up. I'd imagine because he runs no healing or Eviolites, his Roserade line is pretty big, maybe even like as big as 4-3. But no for sure is right now. He throws down another Terrakion, and yeah, that this board is just getting more and more scary. He will be able to retaliate here, which is nice, and he draws an N to boot. Drops another Trubbish, Ultra Balls. Gets rid of Garbodor, probably gets rid of the Terrakion here. You can't really use Terrakion to get through this. I mean, you could, but it's a little sketchy. And he's holding what looks like, I can't tell what the other card is. Tropical Beach. Interesting. Yeah, that card's definitely not. He's definitely not going to want this one. Gino's looking at Tropical Beach and going, "What are you doing? What is this deck?" Yeah, so I kind of, let's see. So he gets another Terrakion, or rather, he fails the search, and then just getting those cards out of the deck, and then going for N here. So he's going for Terrakions versus the world. I'm not sure how well that will fare up. He does get a Retaliate off this turn. Gino does only get to draw 2, but this is just looking so grim. I'm not really sure what else he can do here. This has pretty much been one of the most lopsided games I've seen. I've seen a lot of games, so maybe not that lopsided, but it's pretty bad on Christian's side of the board. So I'm just trying to imagine like any situation that he can come up with, and it's tough. Well, he does get a catcher off, but I almost want it like I almost want to see that on Mewtwo. I think this is like his comeback outs are just all because he discarded that Mewtwo and Super Rod earlier on. Those were really the cards that were gonna keep him in, like get him through this game, because this game, like this matchup, is just bad in terms of like it's a mirror match, but your list is just inferior, and because of the Garbodors in this particular matchup. So it's like, well, how can you come back from this? Well, Mewtwo can save everyone. It saved everyone, save or destroy anyone. It saved art and destroyed worlds, sort of, so to speak. Like the top 4 decks all ran Mewtwo. Mewtwo was dominant all last year, and there's actually no reason why that would change. So, yeah, Mewtwo just kind of was the answer. Unfortunately, it's just not there for Christian. You know, yeah, this might be one of the first times he's done this matchup, so he may not have known. But yeah, so his hand's solid. It's just I just don't know what he can do right now. I mean, Gino did not have a way to get that Terrakion out of the active spot, so at least he's getting a free prize here. You know, get that Land Crush energy. And oh wait, no, he can't even do that because he opted to go for a energy on the bench, which is okay. I guess he's just trying to poke him 2 more turns for 30. That's fine, really. Gino did draw a random receiver, which is pretty good, and gets a Juniper. Junipers forgets the shuffle. Oh, there we go. Yeah. All right. So our table judge enforcing the rules. This is a feature match, so we had our own personal table judge, and as you notice, we have one of the older world's tablecloths being used here, courtesy of the event organizers. Special thanks for them to letting us set that up and providing us with this nice table mat. So there is a second energy on the Terrakion. He's just going to try and get like 30 damage in. You know, might as well. It can't hurt anything. And he's just kind of figuring out, Gino's just kind of sitting here figuring out, okay, what's left? What can come at me at this point? Both our decks are pretty much gone. Let's see what we got left, and let's see, is there a way for either of us to like get out of this weird situation? So we see the first 30 damage on Christian's board, and I think I saw a bunch of tool scrappers maybe in Christian's hand, but Gino runs like 0 tools, so those cards are just dead. You know, with tool scrapper being so popular in a lot of deck lists, it actually makes sense that he's like, well, if everyone's going to run tool scrappers, why would I run tools? They'll just run useless cards against me, and I will just play cards that knock you out, like plus powers and switches and Roserades and DCEs and all that good stuff. So he will be able to get another 30 damage off, but there's going to be so many 90 damages off coming at him. Like, it's hard to, like, he just ran out of attackers. Like, I don't think there's anything Christian can do here. Sure, he's going to get his first prize of the game, and that's kind of cool, I guess. Well, at least we can say it wasn't a 6-0 blowout. But, you know, when staring down this board, you kind of just go, man, what can I do here? I just don't know. So he goes plus power, pump up smash. And now he's, yeah. Pump up smashes, knocks out. And that's... So we get some EXP shares off. Not a big deal because... that Terrakion's just going to be so hard to knock out. You know, Christian needs a plus power for this. He sent up the Trubbish, which is curious. Trubbish will get knocked out. Well, it has like 70 HP. Yeah, it'll get knocked out. Pretty sure. Because that's a EXP share, so not a giant cape. Maybe if he evolves the Garbodor, he buys a turn. Kind of counting energy. Maybe he's trying to deck Gino, which could be a possibility. You know, if he can, like, count all the energies, catcher up Mewtwo, maybe, just maybe, Gino's out of stuff. However, that's not the case. I believe Gino has a switch in his hand, so that this little attempt is going to not work that well. So he tool scraps his own EXP share, tool scraps EXP share off Terrakion, and yeah, he's counting his deck, making sure he won't deck himself. And I think he might have a giant cape, which will let him live to do that. The Juniper's here, and what's that? So he has to use Trubbish's attack now, and yeah, Gino just says, "I have all the answers." Now that you have an end. Yeah. Alright, so that's game. Gino wins this round pretty convincingly with Terrakion Mewtwo with Roserade. A very cool deck, you know, a little twist on a older deck, but it's still very good. And Gino will move on to a 6 or 7-1 record, and thus securing his spot in the top cut. Thanks for watching, guys, and yeah, we'll see you at round 9.